You ready to talk convex? Everybody's new favorite. Everybody's new favorite grind. Let's get this timer started and we'll jump into it. Okay, last week we talked saber grind, one of my top 3 grinds. I like it for general purpose stuff, but there's a new grind for me that I'm starting to become a little more familiar with and enjoy working with more, and that is the convex grind. We talked about how you can use something like a ruler to place against a knife grind to figure out if it's ground on a flat grinder, get that flat edge, or it's convexed, whether or not you can test it that way. And I realized that I only have 2 convex knives personally. One is a full height convex, meaning the convex starts at the spine and goes all the way down to the edge, and that is you can see that's rocking, and that is the PBK SC3, made by my buddy Alan. Great little companion knife. AEBL steel. Just, it's kind of like a modified, what are they called? Kephart, I think. Modified Kephart. And the other one is the AA Forge Trout. That has a partial, it's like a saber vexy type thing. It starts out flat right here on this hammer finish, and then becomes a convex there on the edge. So basically a convex is modeled after what would actually happen during the hand grinding process on a stone. If you know your history, and we've talked about this in the past, if you know your history, you'll know that this traditional Scandinavian grind knives were all hand sharpened on stones. But what happens when you sharpen on a stone is eventually they start naturally convexing because you do a rocking motion as you're grinding, or people would naturally just do that. So the traditional Scandinavian grind knives were actually more like a convex Scandi or a Scandivex. So it's modeled after that, and what that does is it gives more metal. It puts more metal behind the edge of your blade. And with more metal behind the edge of your blade, you actually get more strength and more splitting capability. This is why most axes are ground so that they are convexed. It puts way more metal behind the edge so that as you're splitting, it forces those pieces of wood apart. And the same concept will go for these convex knives as you're carving or feathering. As you're slicing through the wood, it's forcing more material apart. Now, this sounds fantastic, but it does take a little bit of a learning curve. Anytime I've jumped into using a convex knife, it takes me, a few minutes, maybe sometimes longer, to get used to it after working with something like a flat ground knife, like a Scandi or a saber for a while. It just takes a little more coordination to get that convex right. Because it's rounded, you have to find that angle where it slices properly, and it might be steeper than what you're used to with a flat edge, where it's easy to find. You just glide it across and then pitch it up a little bit. So I don't like to think about it like, oh, it's a more advanced grind, but it kind of is. So that being said, I generally recommend recommend a convex grind to somebody who's looking for like an extra tough survival knife, because it's going to be able to handle a lot more abuse than something that uses a flat ground edge like a Scandi or a saber. So there's a, I don't know if it's like a warehouse or a hardware store right up the road here. So we will get these random giant trucks driving through, delivering giant pallets of wood, and it gets so noisy hauling through this neighborhood. It's the most obnoxious thing. Okay, where were we? Convex grinds. I usually recommend them to somebody who's looking for a tough survival style knife that can take abuse. The convex has a tendency to split off too much wood when you're trying to be careful, but once you get good at it, it's very controllable. I like to think about a convex as being the perfect mix between a Scandi grind and a saber grind. A convex will often act like a Scandi, but also slice like a saber. So there's my 2 cents. If you like a convex grind, let me know in the comments below. If you hate a convex grind, because there are a lot of people who hate convex, leave a comment down below as well. I'm pretty bad. I generally like all the grinds except for the full flat grinds and the hollow grinds, but that could just be because I go out there and test all of them. So it's not like I've gotten so used to one that I can't figure out the others. Anyway, enough talking. Thanks for joining me. Next week we'll jump back into knife makers, hopefully. But until then, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.